Good afternoon, Tuesday spellers. Here are the words for your test. Hopefully you have your categories ready on your packet and you have your name on your packet so that's ready to turn in at the end. If it's not, please press pause and then you can resume the test when you're ready. So one of the things with this week's test, because it's on the computer, we're going to use the honor system. You could look back at your packet to look at the words, but we're going to hope that we have a classroom full of students that are ready to test their skills instead of looking back at a packet and not really seeing if they know the words not. So please use the honor system. So first word, thirst. The runner had a great thirst after his long race. Thirst. Number 2, tire. There was a flat tire on the car. Tire. Number 3, pliers. I needed to grab a pliers out of the toolbox. Pliers. Number 4, fir. Our class went outside to look at a fir tree. Number 5, hire. I hope that my dad will be well, let me scratch that. I'm going to use hires or hired. So let me say, I hope the school will hire my uncle for the job. Hire. Number 6, birth. Someone's birth is a very special day. Birth. Number 7, swirl. You get very cool colors if you swirl blue and yellow and green, because then you get blue. All right, number 8, flyer. I saw a flyer for Devani's to get buy one get one free. Number 9, whirl. The dancer put a lot of whirl in her dance steps. Whirl. And lastly, number 10, skirt. She wore a fancy skirt to the dance. Skirt. Okay, so here we go with this week's words. And before you get this week's words, will you please press pause on the video so you can turn in your packet to Mr. Prowl and pick up a new one. That way I know you're already at the second part of the video. Okay, so hopefully you've pressed play again so you can learn about this week's words, and you even got a little preview of this week's categories. So looking at this week's words, saying each one in your head, listening for the sound that you'll hear. By now you've probably noticed that each word has an or sound in the middle. Now last week and the weeks before we combined different vowels with an R. We had, like last week, when we had a long I combined with an R, it made an ire sound, like the word fire. If we had a short I sound and we combined that with an R, we had a sound like an like in bird. But this week's special because whenever you combine a long O pattern, like here we have O blank E, to give that long O sound and combine with the R, you have an OR sound. Well, even if you have a short O sound, like here we have OR just by itself, and there's no patterns to make that a long O, you still have the OR sound. So no matter if it's a long O or a short O, you're always going to get an OR sound. So take a moment to notice what patterns are making these OR sounds, whether it's a long O pattern or a short O pattern. So like the first one you should have noticed was what I pointed out with the O-R-E, because when you have an E at the end, you always have a long O, but it's still an OR sound. So O-R-E is one pattern this week. Another pattern this week is the O-A-R, that will make an OR sound. Then of course we have just OR in the middle. And lastly, hopefully you've noticed that when you have a W in front of the OR, it changes the sound just a little bit. And so that is another category that we're going to be taking a look at. And yes, there will be an oddball category. So let's take a look at just the ORs. So we have like form here, and and then we'll have corn, and let's also go with north, and I think there's fork. Here we go. Notice all the or sounds in there. And then where's storm? Did I put storm in there? I don't believe I put storm in there. Well, let's make another storm, because that is also going to be on your categories. And let's see, did I put storm? Yeah, there it is, hiding over there. Behind that curtain is your category or your reflection for this week. So storm is another word that you'll have this week. And let's see, I want to make sure I got all the or words. And I think I'm missing horn. There's horn in here. Here it is, horn. So those are the 6 words that have the OR pattern in the middle that make a OR sound. Now the other one that you noticed I talked about was the ORE, store. And then we have war. We have tore. Okay, tore a piece of paper. And then let's see, we have more. And what you'll notice here with horse, it is a it falls in the same kind of pattern, even though there's that S in there, because you still have the OR and the E at the end. So horse does fall into this category. And let's see, I think we should have shore. There it is. So those are the 6 words for your categories there. Now over here with the OAR, we have or, we have board. And this would be the kind of board that you would build a house with. Please pick up that board. And then here we have roar. That's a lion. And or, now this isn't like I will go in door A or door B. This is an or that you would use with a paddle. So if you remember back to our author visit, the broken blade, the blade that you would use in a canoe, that's this kind of oar. An oar is a paddle that you would use for a boat. And then lastly, soar. And you'll have to double check on this one, but I'm pretty sure this kind of soar. Well, actually, I want to make sure I tell you the right word for this one. So, if we go into dictionary here, and actually, let's look this one up. There you go. I'll make sure I give you the right version of soar, because there is another kind of soar. Let's do soar meaning. Okay. Definition of soaring. Ah, here we go. Soar, to rise up rapidly, like the bird. You could see soar in the sky. The eagle was soaring over the mountains. Because the other kind of soar, I believe, is sort of like your body is sore. So here, yes, sore, wounded. So this kind of sore that we're working with here is definitely looking at the kind that deals with flight. So that's a good one to note. And then next, we have our W's. And actually, here we go with worm, word, work, and world. Now notice you still have an or sound in there. World, orc, word, it's not as accented because the W has a stronger accent, and it makes actually a schwa ah sound. There are different words that you'll learn about this year that have an schwa ah sound. Where we hear that ah, like war arm, it's this subtle little sound, and this is where we're going to introduce schwa sound. So when you have a W in front of the or, then you're getting into the schwa sound. And then lastly, you have your oddballs: for, pour, and floor. So hopefully you have all your categories written by now. And then lastly, here's the reflection that we're focusing on for this week. So even if it is a short O or long O put together with R, you'll always get an OR sound, unlike previous sorts with our other vowels A, E, and I when you combine with R. Okay, so this week's sort is special in the fact that you always get an OR sound. Now the other thing I want you to write in your reflection is having a W in front of the sound of O with the OR changes it to a schwa sound. Okay, changes the sound of the O to kind of a ah. You still get that or a little bit in there, but it's a changed sound that we call a schwa sound because you hear a kind of ah. You'll notice your jaw drop a little bit when you say world and work. There's that schwa sound in there. So thank you, and make sure that you just ask any questions if you have any.